Do you know what makes for your peace? Today, we journey back in time to a significant moment in biblical history, the distribution of the land of Canaan. This pivotal event marked a monumental fulfillment of a promise made to Abraham. This promise, as recorded in Genesis, assured Abraham that his descendants would have land. And indeed, the Israelites, the covenant people of God, now had not just an identity, but a home. This land of Canaan, so rich and abundant, brought with it an era of prosperity for the Israelites. Houses they did not build, vineyards they did not plant. These were the gifts that the land brought with it. The Israelites were now the beneficiaries of a bountiful land, a land flowing with milk and honey, yet this distribution of the land was not simply about material wealth. It was a step towards the realization of the most important promise to Abraham, that in his seed all nations of the earth shall be blessed. This promise pointed towards a future, one where the lineage of Abraham through the Israelites would bring forth Jesus. However, the path to this future would not be an easy one. Despite the abundance and prosperity, there were still pockets of inhabitants in the land, remnants of previous occupants. God had instructed each tribe to rid their lands of these pockets of people. They had the ability to do so with God's help, but as we'll discover, not all tribes heeded this instruction. The narrative of the distribution of the land of Canaan is one that is rich with promise and prosperity, but also one that forebodes challenges. As we delve further into this story, we will uncover the consequences of unfaithfulness. But as we'll discover, this prosperity was not without its challenges. Despite their newfound home, the Israelites strayed from their faithfulness. This disobedience would lead to a harsh path fraught with troubles. Settled comfortably in the land of Canaan, they were surrounded by pockets of inhabitants that they were instructed, under divine direction, to remove. The task was not impossible. They had the assurance that God would be with them, guiding and strengthening them, just as he had been during their previous conquests. Yet despite this divine assurance, the Israelites faltered. They chose comfort over obedience, leaving these pockets of inhabitants untouched. They allowed remnants of the old inhabitants to continue living among them, contrary to the clear instructions given by God. This failure to act, this disregard for God's command, would be the catalyst for a series of unfortunate events. Unfaithfulness has a way of spreading, like a vine creeping its way across a wall. The Israelites, blessed with a land they had not labored for, and vineyards they had not planted, began to forget. They forgot the promises they had made, the covenant they had entered, and the one who had given them their identity and their home. And when Joshua, their leader, and the elders who had walked with him passed away, things began to unravel. With the old guard gone, the Israelites lost their way. The wheels of faithfulness and obedience, once turning steadily, began to wobble and then to fall off. This was the beginning of a harsh path. A path fraught with troubles, a path that would lead them into cycles of oppression, repentance, and temporary deliverance, a path that would see them turning away from the God who had delivered them, and then crying out to him in their distress. Yet even in this, we see the patience and mercy of God, always ready to deliver his people when they call out to him. And when Joshua and the elders passed away, things began to unravel. A destructive cycle for centuries emerged, one of unfaithfulness, oppression, and pleas for help. The remaining inhabitants of the land, who were supposed to have been driven out, were allowed to flourish. And the Israelites found themselves living among people who did not honor their God. These people, like the Philistines, began to rise in power and oppress the Israelites. In their suffering, the Israelites would cry out to God, begging for relief from their oppressors. And God, in his mercy, would respond. He would appoint a judge, not a judge of laws and sentences, but a leader who would fight for them, guide them, and restore their faithfulness to God. For a time, under the guidance of these judges, the Israelites would thrive. They would remember their covenant with God and live in peace. But when the judge died, the people would once again fall into unfaithfulness, and the cycle begin anew. Each time a judge died, the Israelites would forget the lessons of the past and return to their old ways. And each time, God would allow the remaining inhabitants of the land to rise and oppress them, reminding the Israelites of their need for him. This cycle continued until the Israelites clamored for a change. No longer content with the leadership of judges, they began to demand a king, someone who could lead them and fight their battles. But that's a story for another time. For now, let's remember the cycle, the unending cycle of unfaithfulness and the consequences that followed. In the days of the last judge, Samuel, the Israelites demanded a king. They wanted to be like the nations they were commanded to remove. This was a significant turning point in the history of the Israelites. They had been chosen by God, given a home and identity. They had the King of Kings, and yet they desired to conform to the ways of the world around them. This demand for a king was not just a simple request for a change in governance. It was a deviation from God's plan for them. They had the King of Kings, yet they yearned for a human king, someone they could see, touch, and follow. The Israelites might have thought that a king would bring stability, unity, and strength. Perhaps they believed that a king would provide a solution to the cycle of unfaithfulness they had been trapped in for about 450 years. But in reality, they were seeking comfort in worldly structures, forgetting the divine legacy they were a part of. Yet, in His infinite wisdom and mercy, God granted their request. He gave them a king, not because it was the best for them, but because He respected their free will. He allowed them to experience the consequences of their choices, hoping that through these experiences they would turn back to Him. This new era of monarchy was not without its challenges. It was filled with victories and defeats, moments of faithfulness and periods of unfaithfulness. Yet it was all part of the grand narrative that would eventually lead to the coming of Jesus. God fulfilled their request, providing them with a king, even though it deviated from His original plan. This was a testament to God's enduring patience and love for His people. Despite their unfaithfulness, God remained faithful, always working towards the fulfillment of His promise to Abraham, that in his seed all nations of the earth shall be blessed. Thus, the stage was set for the United Kingdom period of the Bible. The Israelites had a king, but the story was far from over. The journey towards peace, towards understanding the heart of God, would continue. And as we delve deeper into this fascinating narrative, we'll see how even in the midst of our deviations, God's plans are always for our good. As we reflect on these historical events, we can't help but be fascinated by the story of what makes for our peace. We've traveled through history together, exploring the distribution of the land of Canaan to the Israelites, a promise made to Abraham realized. A people, once without a home, now had a place to call their own. It seemed like a straightforward path to the fulfillment of the most significant promise to Abraham, that in his seed all nations of the earth shall be blessed, pointing to Jesus. This narrative serves as a reminder of the importance of faithfulness and understanding what truly makes for our peace. It's a fascinating history, rich with lessons that are still very much relevant today. You're encouraged to verify these facts in the book of Judges and 1 Samuel. Why not learn more with the free Bible correspondence course available just by commenting below with your mailing address? Until next week, we thank you for watching.